I never thought turning 60 would be the night I lost everything. The living room smelled like rosemary and roasted garlic. Candles flickered on the mantel. My neighbors were laughing in the kitchen. My daughter Lucia kept refilling wine glasses, her husband Adrian right beside her with that easy smile he always wore. Everything felt warm. Safe. Then my brother walked in. Gabriel showed up an hour late, which wasn't surprising. He always made an entrance. This time he carried a bottle of champagne that probably cost more than my electric bill. The kind with gold foil that catches the light just right. He hugged me, but it felt stiff. Cold. "Happy birthday, little sister," he said into my ear. "You've aged gracefully. If only Enrique could see you now." My chest tightened at my husband's name. Enrique had been gone 12 years, but hearing it still felt like touching a bruise that never quite healed. I smiled anyway. That's what you do at parties. Gabriel moved through the room, shaking hands, kissing cheeks, making small talk. He had that energy rich people have, like the air bends around them. I watched him pour himself a drink, laugh at someone's joke, check his watch. Then he raised his glass. "Everyone," he called out. "A toast!" The room quieted. Faces turned toward him. Lucia paused mid-conversation. Adrian set down a platter of cheese. "To Rosa," Gabriel said, his voice carrying across the room, "and to the peaceful life Enrique made possible for her." People smiled. A few raised their glasses. Then he kept talking. "You must be enjoying that trust fund, right? The one with 500,000 in it." I blinked. Someone laughed nervously. I thought maybe I'd misheard him. The number didn't make sense. 500,000. My mind scrambled to catch up. What trust fund? I said. The words came out quiet, almost a whisper. But in that moment, the whole room heard me. Everything stopped. Gabriel's smile faded. His eyes moved from me to Lucia, then to Adrian. The air changed. It felt thick, heavy, like right before a storm breaks. "You don't know," Gabriel said slowly. He tilted his head. "You don't know about the trust Enrique left you." My heart started pounding. I looked at Lucia. Her face had gone pale. The wine glass in her hand trembled slightly. Adrian's jaw tightened. He stayed at the floor. Gabriel's voice cut through the silence again, sharper this time. "So what did you two do with the money?" The question hung in the air like smoke. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. I felt my hands go cold. Lucia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Adrian rubbed his face, still not looking up. The party noise from the kitchen sounded far away now, like it was happening in another house. I searched my daughter's face for an answer, for confusion that matched mine, for surprise. But what I saw instead made my stomach drop. Guilt. Pure, raw guilt. "Lucia." My voice cracked. "What is he talking about?" She shook her head quickly. "Mama, not he. Please." Gabriel stepped closer. "Enrique set up a trust for you before he died. I found the paperwork in his old estate files. $500,000, withdrawn by your daughter and her husband a year after the funeral." Whispers started spreading through the room like wildfire. I heard fragments. Trust fund. Didn't know. Her own daughter. My vision blurred at the edges. $500,000. The number kept repeating in my head. That kind of money could have changed everything. The roof repairs I'd been putting off for 3 years. The medical bills I'd been paying in installments. The nights I'd skipped meals to save a few dollars. All those times I'd asked Lucia about finances after Enrique died. She'd told me there wasn't much left. The furniture business had been struggling. "We had the house," she said, "and a small life insurance policy. That was it. We need to be careful with money, Mama," she'd told me. "Everything's tight." I'd believed her. I'd signed papers she brought me without reading them because I trusted her. Because that's what mothers do. Adrian finally looked up. His face was red. "This isn't the time or place." "Then when is?" Gabriel shot back. "When were you planning to tell her?" I felt dizzy. The room tilted slightly. Someone touched my elbow, my neighbor Mrs. Chen, steadying me. But I barely registered it. Everything I thought I knew was crumbling. My daughter, my son-in-law, the man Enrique had trusted to carry on his business, the man who called me Mama and promised to take care of us, they'd stolen from me. The party died after that. People made excuses and left quickly, avoiding eye contact. Within an hour, the house was empty except for the smell of cold food and the weight of what had just happened. I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at the birthday cake no one had cut. 60 candles, all blown out. And one question burning in my mind: what else had they lied about? 3 days passed before Lucia finally answered her phone. I'd called 17 times, left messages that started calm and ended desperate. Adrian sent exactly one text: "We can explain everything. Please give us time." Time. Like that would somehow make the betrayal smaller. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Gabriel's face at the party, heard his voice cutting through the celebration. "So what did you two do with the money?" I kept replaying the last years of my life through a new lens. Every penny I'd scraped together, every bill I'd worried over. The winter I'd kept the heat low to save money. The times I'd told friends I couldn't join them for lunch because I was watching my budget. All while my daughter sat on $500,000 of my money. On the fourth morning, my phone buzzed. A message from Gabriel with 3 attached files. My hands shook as I opened them. Legal documents. Pages of dense text and signatures. At the top, irrevocable trust agreement for Rosa Maria Moreno. I read slowly, my reading glasses slipping down my nose. The trust had been established 2 months before Enrique died. The beneficiary was listed as me. The amount, $500,000. To provide Rosa Moreno lifelong financial security, inaccessible to any third party without her written consent. My breath caught. Enrique had known he was dying. His heart had been failing for months. He'd set this up to protect me. I scrolled to the next document, a withdrawal authorization dated 14 months after his funeral. My signature was there at the bottom. Except it wasn't my signature. I grabbed a pen and wrote my name on a napkin 3 times. The loops were different. The slant was wrong. Whoever had signed that document had tried to copy my handwriting, but they'd missed the way I always dotted my I's with a small circle, a habit from my teaching days. Someone had forged my name. My phone rang. "Gabriel, did you see them?" he asked. "Yes." My voice sounded hollow. "Rosa, I'm sorry. I thought you knew. When I saw the trust mentioned in some old paperwork I was organizing, I assumed you'd been living off it all these years. That's why I brought it up at the party. I didn't realize. They never told me." The words felt strange in my mouth, like speaking a language I'd just learned. Gabriel went quiet for a moment. "The question is what they did with it. That's a lot of money to just disappear." I thought about Adrian's new truck 2 years ago, the vacation to Europe they'd taken last spring, the renovations on their house. At the time, Lucia had said Adrian's business was doing well. I'd been happy for them. Now every memory felt poisoned. "There's something else," Gabriel said. "I talked to Enrique's old lawyer. He remembered the trust. Said Enrique was very specific about the protections. He didn't want anyone else touching it, not even family." "Why would Enrique do that?" I asked. "He loved Lucia. He loved you more, and he knew something you didn't." The implication hung between us. Enrique had suspected this might happen. He'd tried to protect me from my own daughter. That night, I couldn't stay in the house. The walls felt too close. I drove to the park where Enrique and I used to walk after dinner. Sat on our bench under the oak tree. I remembered something he'd said near the end. We'd been in the hospital. He'd squeezed my hand and whispered, "I've made sure you're protected, no matter what happens." I'd thought he meant the life insurance, the house, maybe some savings I didn't know about. He'd meant so much more, and I'd signed it all away without even knowing it existed. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Lucia. Mama, please, let me explain. But what explanation could possibly make this right? What words could give back the years I'd spent struggling while they lived comfortably on money that should have been mine? I typed back, "Did you forge my signature?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "It's complicated." I stayed at those 2 words until they blurred. It's complicated. That's what people say when they know they are wrong but don't want to admit it. I deleted her message and opened my photos. Scrolled back to pictures from Enrique's funeral. There was Lucia, red-eyed and grieving. Adrian with his arm around her. Both of them looked devastated. Had they already been planning it then? Or did the idea come later, when they saw all that money just sitting there? A memory surfaced. 3 months after the funeral, Lucia had brought over a stack of papers. "Just some final estate stuff, Mama," she'd said. "Sign where the tabs are." I'd been so deep in grief I could barely function. I'd signed everything without reading it. Trusted her completely. That's when they'd done it. When I was at my weakest. My phone rang. Not Lucia this time. A number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Moreno. A woman's voice. Professional. "This is Patricia Ruiz. I was your husband's estate attorney. Gabriel Moreno asked me to reach out." My heart started racing again. "Yes. I'd like to meet with you. Tomorrow if possible. There are some things about that trust you need to know. Things that weren't in the documents Gabriel sent you." "What things?" A pause. "I'd rather discuss it in person. But Mrs. Moreno, I want you to know what happened to you was intentional. And I have proof." The attorney's office smelled like leather and old paper. Patricia Ruiz sat across from me, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and gentle hands. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside were documents I'd never seen before. "Your husband came to me 3 times before he died," she said. "He was very clear about what he wanted, and very worried about what might happen after." I opened the folder with shaking fingers. The first page was a letter. Enrique's handwriting. My throat tightened. But Patricia kept talking, pulling me back. "Let me ask you something, Mrs. Moreno. After your husband passed, did Lucia or Adrian ever sit down with you and go through the estate properly?" I thought back to those awful months. Everything had been a fog. Grief sat on my chest like a weight I couldn't lift. "Lucia brought papers," I said slowly. "Lots of them. She'd put little tabs where I needed to sign. Said it was just closing out accounts and transferring the business." "Did you read them?" Shame heated my face. No, I couldn't focus. Everything reminded me of him. I just wanted it to be over. Patricia nodded like she'd heard this story before. "That's when they moved. While you were vulnerable." She pulled out another document, a timeline she'd constructed. It showed every paper I'd signed in the year after Enrique's death. "See this?" She pointed to a date 6 weeks after the funeral. "This transferred executor authority to Lucia. Standard. Nothing wrong there." Her finger moved down. "But this one, 2 months later, gave Adrian power of attorney over estate accounts. Did you know you signed that?" I stayed at the signature. It looked like mine, but I had no memory of it. "And hey," Patricia's voice got harder. 3 months after the funeral, this authorized liquidation of the trust. The entire 500,000 moved into a joint account owned by Lucia and Adrian Reyes. The room tilted slightly. "I don't remember any of this." "I believe you, because your husband specifically designed the trust to prevent exactly this scenario. It required 2 things: your notarized consent with independent legal counsel present, and a mandatory 30-day waiting period. Neither happened." "Then how did they?" "They forged the process, created documents that looked legitimate, found a notary who didn't ask questions. Then they drained the account before anyone could catch it." My hands clenched in my lap. Why didn't anyone stop them? Patricia's expression softened. Because the bank saw authorized signatures and legal-looking papers, and because you'd already given Lucia executor authority. On paper, everything looked proper. That's how these things work. They use your trust as a weapon. I thought about all those nights after Enrique died. How Lucia would come over with dinner and sympathy. How she'd sit with me while I cried. How she'd hold my hand and promise everything would be okay. Had she been planning it even then? The business, I said suddenly. Lucia told me it was failing, that there wasn't much money left. Patricia pulled out more papers. Financial statements from Enrique's furniture company. The business was actually doing fine. Not booming, but stable. Your husband had built something solid. After he died, Adrian took over management. Within 8 months, he'd restructured everything. Took out loans against the business assets. Diverted income into personal accounts. She showed me the numbers. My stomach turned. By the time the trust money was gone, the business was drowning in debt. Adrian sold it last year. Told you the market had changed. Remember? I did remember. Lucia had been so apologetic. Said they'd tried everything to save Daddy's legacy. I'd comforted her while she cried about losing the family business. She'd been crying over money she'd already stolen. Mrs. Moreno, I need to ask you something difficult. Patricia leaned forward. How have you been living these past 12 years? The question embarrassed me. Carefully. I have the house. It's paid off. Social Security. I worked part-time at the library until last year. I budget. How carefully? I keep the heat at 62 in winter. I shop sales. I haven't bought new clothes in 3 years. Last month I skipped a dentist appointment because the copay was too high. The words came out flat. Factual. Like reading someone else's life. Patricia's jaw tightened. While your daughter and son-in-law took European vacations. She said Adrian's business was doing well. Adrian's business was your money. The truth sat between us like something physical. Solid. Undeniable. I'd lived small and careful and afraid while they'd lived on my husband's final gift to me. They'd watched me struggle. Let me skip meals to save money. Let me worry. And they'd never said a word. There's something else, Patricia said quietly. She pulled out the last document in the folder. Your husband left you a letter. He gave it to me with instructions to hold it unless something went wrong with the estate. He said I'd know when the time was right. She slid the envelope across the desk. My name in Enrique's handwriting. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I opened it. Gabriel showed up at my house the next morning before I'd even finished my coffee. He didn't knock. Just walked in like he owned the place. His face was set in that expression I remembered from childhood, the one that meant someone was about to get hurt, and it wasn't going to be him. Pack a bag, he said. What? You're staying with me for a few days. I don't want you here alone when this blows up. I was still in my robe, still processing everything Patricia had told me, still trying to understand how my life had become something I didn't recognize. Gabriel, I can't just. Rosa. He sat down across from me. His voice dropped. I found something else. Something worse. My stomach dropped. How could it be worse? He pulled out his laptop and opened a spreadsheet. Numbers filled the screen. Dates. Transactions. Account numbers. I hired a forensic accountant. Cost me 15 grand, but it was worth it. His finger traced down the columns. Here. 3 weeks after Enrique's funeral. 50,000 withdrawn from the trust. Marked as estate taxes. Okay. There were no estate taxes. The business structure Enrique set up avoided that. This money went straight into Adrian's personal account. He scrolled down. Here. 2 months later. 75,000. Marked as business investment. Want to guess where it actually went? I shook my head. A down payment on their house. The one they told you they'd been saving for. Each revelation felt like a physical blow. I gripped the edge of the table. Gabriel kept going. His voice was cold, clinical. Over the next year, they moved the entire trust in chunks, always under 50,000 to avoid flags, always with paperwork that looked legitimate. By the time the account was empty, they'd laid it through so many transactions that anyone doing a surface audit would miss it. This was planned, I whispered. From the beginning. This wasn't impulsive, Rosa. This was calculated. I thought about Adrian, how he'd always been so charming, so helpful. After Enrique died, he'd been there constantly, fixing things around the house, handling phone calls, making arrangements. I thought he was being kind. He'd been positioning himself. There's more, Gabriel said. The business loans Adrian took out. He used your house as collateral. The room went cold. What? 3 years ago, he needed cash to cover some bad investments. Took out a home equity line against this property. You own the house, but he put a lien on it. If he defaults, you could lose everything. I couldn't breathe. How is that even possible? Because you gave him power of attorney. Technically legal, even if morally bankrupt. My house, the home Enrique and I had built together, where we'd raised Lucia, where every room held memories. They'd been willing to risk it all. Gabriel closed the laptop. I confronted Adrian yesterday. You what? Called him. Told him I knew everything. That I had proof. That if he didn't start talking, I was going to the police. My heart hammered. What did he say? He hung up. Then Lucia called me 20 minutes later, crying, begging me not to destroy her life. Said Adrian had told her the money was a family investment. That Enrique had wanted them to use it to grow the business. That's a lie. I know, but she's sticking to it, at least for now. Gabriel stood and started pacing. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to try to make you feel guilty. They're going to say it was all a misunderstanding, that they were trying to help, that they planned to tell you eventually. I don't care what they say. Yes, you do, because she's your daughter, and no matter what she did, part of you still wants to believe there's an explanation that makes this okay. He was right. Even now, even knowing everything, some small piece of me was searching for a way to forgive her. Gabriel knelt in front of my chair. His voice softened. Enrique called me 2 weeks before he died. Asked me to watch over you. Said he'd set things up to protect you, but that I needed to be the backup plan if anything went wrong. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought he was being paranoid. Enrique always worried too much. I figured the trust was safe, that you'd known about it all along, that everything was fine. His voice cracked slightly. I failed you. I should have checked sooner. I reached out and took his hand. You didn't fail me. You saved me. 12 years too late. Better late than never. We sat there in silence for a moment. Then Gabriel's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression hardened. It's Adrian, calling from Lucia's phone. He showed me the screen. Want me to answer? I thought about all the times I'd answered their calls, all the times I'd believed their lies, all the years I'd trusted when I should have questioned. Yes, I said. Put it on speaker. Gabriel pressed accept and set the phone on the table between us. Hello. Lucia's voice. Small. Scared. Lucia, I said. A sharp intake of breath. Mama. Oh God, Mama. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. We didn't mean. Put Adrian on. Silence. Muffled voices in the background. Then Adrian's voice, tight and controlled. Rosa, we need to talk about this rationally. Rationally. The word tasted bitter. You stole $500,000 from me, and you want to talk rationally. It wasn't like that. The money was tied up in estate complications. We used it to stabilize the business, to protect your interests. Stop. Gabriel cut him off. I have 12 years of bank records. I have forged documents. I have emails between you and Lucia planning how to access the trust, so don't insult us with this performance. More silence. When Adrian spoke again, his voice had changed. Harder. What do you want? What do I want? I felt something break loose inside me. Anger I'd been pushing down for days. I want the last 12 years back. I want every dinner I skipped. Every doctor's appointment I postponed. Every night I laid awake worrying about money that was mine all along. Mama, please. Lucia was crying now. I want to understand how you watched me struggle. How you let me live like I had nothing while you spent my husband's money. How you looked me in the eye and lied. We were going to pay it back, Adrian said. The investments were supposed to. Investments? Gabriel laughed. It wasn't a kind sound. You mean the construction company that went bankrupt? The rental properties that defaulted? The gambling debts? Gambling debts. That was new. I looked at Gabriel. He nodded grimly. Adrian has a problem, Gabriel said to me. Sports betting. High-stakes poker. I found records going back 5 years. He burned through most of your trust money trying to win back losses. The phone went quiet. Then Lucia's voice, barely a whisper. Adrian, is that true? Lucia, is it true? I had it under control. I was going to fix everything. A sound like the phone being dropped. Lucia's voice rising, hysterical. Adrian trying to talk over her. Then the line went dead. I stayed the phone. My daughter hadn't known. Not all of it. She'd known about the trust, yes. Known they'd taken it. But she hadn't known where it all went. Small comfort. She'd still chosen him over me. Gabriel picked up the phone and checked something. They at their house. 20 minutes away. I need to see her. Rosa. I need to see my daughter. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. I'm driving. We were halfway to the door when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it. An image. A document. At the top, private letter of instruction. I zoomed in. Enrique's handwriting. Dated 3 weeks before he died. My hands trembled as I read. Rosa, my love. If you're reading this, I'm gone and something has gone wrong with my planning. I pray you never have to see these words. I didn't trust Adrian's judgment. I saw something in him that reminded me of my own father, a hunger that doesn't know when to stop. I built the trust to protect you from that hunger. I've instructed Gabriel to monitor the estate. If any execution anomalies appear, if money moves in ways it shouldn't, he has the authority to intervene. I've given him legal standing as a secondary executor, though he doesn't know it yet. Forgive me for not telling you this while I lived. I didn't want you to see our family through suspicious eyes, but I couldn't risk leaving you vulnerable. You are stronger than you know. If you're reading this, it means my worst fears came true, but it also means you've learned the truth. And truth, however painful, is the foundation of every new beginning. I love you. Always. E. I read it 3 times. Gabriel was reading over my shoulder. He knew, I whispered. He knew Adrian would do this. And he made me the backstop. That's why he left me copies of everything. Why he made sure I'd find the trust records. Gabriel's voice was thick. He was protecting you even after he was gone. Another text came through. This one from Patricia Ruiz. This letter gives you standing to contest every transaction. It proves intent to defraud. I'm filing papers Monday morning. I looked at Gabriel. What does that mean? It means we can get your money back. Most of it, anyway. It means Adrian could face criminal charges. And it means Lucia might too, depending on what she knew and when. My daughter. My only child. The girl I'd raised. The woman I'd trusted. I need to talk to her first, I said. Before lawyers. Before police. I need to hear it from her. Gabriel hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but I'm coming with you. We got in his car. As we pulled out of the driveway, I looked back at my house. The home I'd almost lost without even knowing it. Enrique had tried to save me. He'd built protections and backup plans and safety nets. But in the end, no legal structure could protect against the simplest betrayal, a daughter choosing money over her mother. The drive took forever and no time at all. When we pulled up to Lucia's house, the house bought with my money, I saw her standing in the driveway. She'd been waiting for us. Teresa Martinez had been practicing law for 35 years before she retired. Now she spent her mornings in her garden and her afternoons helping friends navigate legal disasters they didn't see coming. I was one of those friends. She sat at my kitchen table with reading glasses perched on her nose, going through every document Gabriel had sent me. Her pen moved across the pages, circling phrases, underlining sections, making notes in the margins. I'd made coffee an hour ago. It sat cold between us. "Rosa," she said finally, setting down her pen. "This is bad." "I know." "No, I don't think you do." She tapped the signature page. "This isn't just family drama or poor judgment. This is textbook fraud." The word hung in the air. Fraud. It sounded so official, so criminal. Teresa pulled out 3 different documents and lined them up. "Look at the dates. Here's the trust agreement, signed by Enrique, witnessed, notarized properly. Clean." She moved to the second page. "Here's the power of attorney you signed 6 weeks after his death. Also legitimate. You gave Lucia authority to handle estate matters. Normal. Expected." Her finger moved to the third document. "But this is where it gets interesting. This authorization to liquidate the trust? Look at the consent language." I leaned closer. The text was dense, full of legal terms I didn't understand. Teresa read aloud. "The undersigned beneficiary hereby authorizes full liquidation and transfer of trust assets to designated family investment accounts for the purpose of estate preservation and generational wealth building." I don't understand. That language doesn't protect you. It protects them. See? Family investment accounts. That's deliberately vague. Could mean anything. And generational wealth building. That's code for "we're taking control and you won't see this money again." She pulled out a magnifying glass, actually pulled out a magnifying glass like something from a detective movie, and examined my signature. "This isn't how you sign your name. Look at the capital R. Yours curves back on itself. This one doesn't. And your O in Moreno, you always make it slightly oval. This is perfectly round." So someone forged it. Someone traced it, Polly. Probably from another document where you'd signed legitimately. They got close but missed the small details. Teresa sat back. Whoever notarized this either didn't check ID or was paid to look the other way. My stomach turned. "Can we prove that?" "Maybe. The notary seal is here." She pointed to a stamp in the corner. "I can track down who it was. If they are legitimate, they'll have records of the signing. If they can't produce proof you were physically present with proper identification, the whole document collapses." She kept flipping through pages. Each one revealed another layer of deception. Here's another red flag. The trust had mandatory safeguards. Enrique built in a 30-day waiting period between authorization and execution. Required independent legal counsel to witness your consent. Neither happened. Why would he do that? Teresa looked at me over her glasses. Because he knew someone might try exactly this. Smart men don't create complicated trusts for simple estates. They do it when they are worried about something specific. I thought about Enrique in those final months. How he'd spent hours with lawyers and accountants. How he'd insisted on handling everything himself even when he could barely sit up. I'd thought he was being controlling. He'd been being protective. "There's something else," Teresa said quietly. She pulled out a document I hadn't seen before. "Gabriel sent this separately. It's a transfer record from the construction company your son-in-law invested in." She showed me the numbers. $200,000. Moved from the trust into a business venture that folded within 18 months. That company was already struggling when Adrian invested. Any basic research would have shown that. He either didn't do due diligence or didn't care because it wasn't his money at risk. How much did they lose? Teresa's expression answered before her words did. All of it. The company went bankrupt. Adrian was listed as a creditor, but there were no assets to recover. $200,000 of your money just vanished. I gripped the edge of the table. What about the rest? She flipped through more pages. $75,000 on their house. Another $50,000 on a rental property that's currently in foreclosure. Various consulting fees that appear to be Adrian paying himself for managing the trust he wasn't supposed to be managing. And, she paused, about $80,000 in cash withdrawals over 2 years. Cash. Cash. No paper trail after the withdrawal. Could be anything. Could be nothing. But it's gone. I did the math in my head. It didn't add up to $500,000. Teresa saw my confusion. The rest is still out there somewhere, either in accounts we haven't found yet or already spent in ways that didn't leave clear records. Gabriel's accountant is still digging. She gathered all the papers into neat stacks. Here's the bottom line. You have grounds for a civil suit. Fraud. Breach of fiduciary duty. Forgery. Possibly theft if we can prove intent. The evidence is strong. What about criminal charges? Possible. Depends on the district attorney and whether they think it's worth prosecuting. Family fraud cases are complicated. Juries get sympathetic. Defense lawyers argue misunderstandings and good intentions gone wrong. She paused. But the threat of criminal charges, that's leverage. I felt sick. We were talking about my daughter, about putting her in legal jeopardy, about possibly sending her to prison. I can't, I whispered. Teresa reached across the table and took my hand. You don't have to decide today. But Rosa, you need to understand something. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated. They had multiple opportunities to tell you the truth and chose deception every single time. She's my daughter. I know. But she's also someone who watched you struggle and said nothing. Teresa's voice was gentle but firm. Mercy has its place, but so does accountability. Right now, they think they got away with it. If you do nothing, you're teaching them they were right. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I saw Gabriel getting out of his car with someone I didn't recognize. A man in a suit carrying a briefcase. Teresa saw them too. That'll be Marcus, the investigator Gabriel hired. What? Your brother doesn't waste time. He wants every fact locked down before anyone has a chance to hide evidence. They came inside without knocking. Gabriel made quick introductions. Marcus Chen, former FBI, now did private financial investigations. He had the same clinical efficiency as Teresa. Opened his briefcase, pulled out a tablet, started showing me things I didn't want to see. Bank records, email exchanges, text messages between Lucia and Adrian discussing the money Mama doesn't know about. These are from Lucia's cloud backup, Marcus said, recovered through legal channels. They show clear awareness that you were unaware of the trust and deliberate decisions to keep it from you. He swiped to another message. Adrian to Lucia, she doesn't need to know right now. Would just stress her out. Another one. Lucia to Adrian, maybe we should tell her before Gabriel figures it out. Adrian's response, he won't. Old man doesn't pay attention to details. Gabriel's jaw tightened at that. Marcus kept going. I also found evidence of additional accounts. Adrian has been moving money offshore. Small amounts. Under reporting thresholds. Started about 3 years ago when the domestic investments began failing. How much? Teresa asked. Maybe 60, 70,000. Hidden well enough that casual audits would miss it. But it's there. So they hadn't just stolen my money. They'd hidden it where I couldn't get it back. I stood up suddenly. The chair scraped against the floor. Everyone looked at me. I walked out to the back porch. Stood there breathing hard. Behind me, I heard low voices. Gabriel, Teresa, Marcus, discussing strategies, options, legal maneuvers. They were building a case against my daughter. And the worst part, she deserved it. 3 days later, I had a complete picture of where my husband's gift had disappeared. Gabriel spread it all out on poster board like a crime show presentation. He'd created a flow chart. My $500,000 at the top, arrows pointing to different buckets below. Construction company, 200,000. He pointed to the first bucket, total loss. Rental property, 50,000. Currently in foreclosure. Maybe get 10 back if we're lucky. House down payment, 75,000. Equities there but locked unless they sell. His finger moved across the board. Various business expenses and consulting fees Adrian paid himself. Roughly 60,000. Cash withdrawals, 85,000. Unknown purposes. Offshore accounts, approximately 60,000. Recoverable but complicated. He circled the last item. And the rest, about 70,000, appears to have gone to gambling debts and personal expenses that are impossible to trace. I stared at the board. My husband's life savings, his final protection for me, scattered across bad investments and worse decisions. The construction company, I said. Tell me about that. Gabriel pulled up a file on his laptop. Adrian invested 200,000 into a startup called Summit Builders. They were flipping distressed properties. High risk, high reward model. Had he done any research? Minimal. The company was already struggling when he invested. 9 months later, they defaulted on loans and went bankrupt. Adrian lost everything. When was this? 3 years ago. Which means he knew the money was gone and still said nothing. Still let you live thinking you had nothing. I thought about 3 years ago. That was when I'd asked Lucia if there was any way to repair my roof. She'd told me money was too tight. Suggested I apply for a home improvement loan. I'd been too proud to take on debt. So I'd just put buckets in the attic when it rained. Meanwhile, Adrian had gambled away $200,000 of my money. The rental property, I said. Where is it? About 40 miles from here. Adrian bought it thinking he could flip it or rent it out. Did neither. Hasn't made a mortgage payment in 6 months. Bank's foreclosing next month. Gabriel showed me pictures. A small house. Overgrown yard. Broken windows. He bought this with my money. And he's letting it rot rather than tell you about it. If he'd come clean years ago, maybe it could have been salvaged. Now it's worthless. I felt a headache building behind my eyes. Every revelation was another weight. What about the offshore accounts? Marcus stepped in. Standard money laundering pattern. Small transfers to accounts in the Caymans. Structured to avoid reporting requirements. It's recoverable through legal channels, but it'll take time and money. Why would he do that? Because he knew this day might come. He was building an escape hatch. Money you couldn't find, couldn't claim. Insurance for himself. The calculation of it stunned me. This wasn't impulsive desperation. This was planning. Preparation. Gabriel's phone rang. He glanced at it and his expression hardened. It's Adrian. 3rd time today. Don't answer, I said. Actually, Teresa looked up from her notes. Maybe you should. Marcus can record it. Might say something useful. Gabriel put the phone on speaker and hit record. What? His voice was cold. I need to talk to Rosa. Adrian sounded desperate. Strained. Please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. She doesn't want to talk to you. Gabriel, please. I'm trying to make this right. I have a plan. I can pay her back. With what money? You spent it all. I'm selling the house. The rental property. I'll get loans. I'll work out a payment plan. Just tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I never meant for this to happen. Gabriel looked at me. I shook my head. Rosa says you should have thought about that 12 years ago. She also says that if you really want to make things right, you'll cooperate with the investigation and return whatever you can. Silence on the other end. Then, investigation. Did you think this was just going to go away? That you could steal $500,000 and face no consequences? It wasn't stealing. It was family money. Enrique would have wanted. Don't. Gabriel's voice dropped to something dangerous. Don't you dare tell me what my brother-in-law would have wanted. You didn't know him. You didn't respect him. And you sure as hell didn't honor his wishes. Let me talk to Rosa. Please. I reached for the phone. Gabriel hesitated, then handed it to me. Adrian, I said. Rosa. Thank God. Listen, I know how this looks. How it looks? You stole from me. You forged documents. You hid money offshore. You let me live like I had nothing while you spent my husband's money like it was yours. I was trying to grow it, to make it last. The investments were supposed to. Supposed to what? Gamble it away. Hide it from me? Watch me skip meals while you took vacations. His voice cracked. I know I made mistakes. But I swear, I thought I could fix it. I thought if I could just get one deal to work out, I could pay it all back and you'd never have to know. But you couldn't, and I do know. So now what? Now I'm asking for a chance to make it right. Without lawyers. Without police. Just family. I looked around the room. At Gabriel's hard expression. At Teresa's legal pads covered in notes. At Marcus's tablet full of evidence. Family, I repeated. You haven't treated me like family in 12 years. Why should I start treating you like family now? Because Lucia loves you. Because this is destroying her. Because, he took a shaky breath. Because I'm begging you. Something in his voice made me pause. Not sympathy, but recognition. This was what desperation sounded like. Where's Lucia? I asked. Here. She wants to talk to you. Muffled sounds. Then my daughter's voice. Small. Broken. Mama. And just like that, my anger cracked. Mama, I'm so sorry. Lucia's voice carried the kind of pain that only comes from complete collapse. I'd heard it once before, when her father died. Are you? I asked quietly. I didn't know. Not all of it. I swear. She was crying. Adrian told me the trust was for family investments. That Daddy wanted us to grow it. That would tell you when it doubled. Did you believe that? Silence. Then, I wanted to. Those 4 words said everything. She'd known something was wrong. She'd felt it. But she'd chosen comfort over truth. When did you realize? I asked. That it was wrong? Or that it was gone? Both. A shaky breath. I knew something felt off about a year after Daddy died. The way Adrian kept pushing me to sign things. The way he got angry when I asked questions. But he said it was normal. That estate stuff was always complicated. And you believed him. He's my husband. I trusted him. More than you trusted me. The question landed hard. I heard her sob. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know anymore. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I found out most of it was gone 2 years ago. Adrian told me the construction company failed. That he'd tried to save it but couldn't. He was devastated. Said he'd failed Daddy's memory. And you still didn't tell me. Because by then it was too late. The money was gone. What was the point of hurting you when we couldn't fix it? I gripped the phone tighter. The point was honesty. The point was giving me a choice. The point was not watching me struggle while you knew why. I know. She was barely intelligible through the tears. I know, and I hate myself for it. Every time you worried about bills. Every time you said you couldn't afford something. I wanted to tell you, but I was so ashamed. Ashamed of what you did or ashamed you got caught? Both. Mama, I'm both. At least that was honest. Do you know where the rest of the money went? I asked. The offshore accounts. The cash withdrawals. What offshore accounts? Either she was a better liar than I thought, or Adrian had kept that from her too. Lucia, your husband moved $60,000 to the Caymans. He's been withdrawing cash for years. Did you know about any of that? No. God, no. He told me everything was in the house and the business. He said, her voice broke. He said he was protecting me from the details. That I didn't need to worry about the complicated stuff. She'd been betrayed too. Not the same way. Not the same scale. But betrayed. Where is he now? I asked. He left. After Gabriel called. Packed a bag and left. Said he needed space to think. Do you know where? No. He won't answer my calls. Mama, I don't know what to do. And there it was. My daughter, lost and scared, asking me for guidance after she'd helped destroy my life. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it would be okay, to be her mother. But another part, the part that had spent 12 years living small and scared, that part wanted her to feel exactly this lost, to sit in the consequences, to understand what she'd taken from me. Lucia, I said carefully, I need you to be honest with me about one thing. Did you sign my name on those trust documents? No. I swear. Adrian handled all of that. He told me you'd signed everything. That it was all legal. Did you ever see me sign them? Silence. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. No. Did you ever ask to see the originals? No. Why not? Because I didn't want to know. Because if I asked too many questions, I'd have to face what was really happening. And I wasn't strong enough to do that. At least she understood that much. Gabriel was making cutting motions across his throat, telling me to end the call. Teresa was watching carefully, taking notes. I need to go, I told Lucia. Wait, Mama, please. Can I see you? Can we talk in person? I looked at Gabriel. He shook his head firmly. Not yet, I said. When? I don't know. Are you going to have me arrested? The question hit me in the chest. I don't know that either. I deserve it. I know I do. But, Mama, her voice cracked completely. I'm your daughter. Doesn't that count for something? It counted for everything. That was the problem. I have to go, I said again. I love you. I ended the call without responding. Gabriel took the phone from my hand and set it on the table. She's manipulating you, he said. She's devastated. She should be. She helped steal $500,000 from her widowed mother. She didn't know everything. She knew enough. Gabriel's voice was hard. She knew it was wrong and she did it anyway. Now she's playing the victim because she got caught. I wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Everything he said was true, but she was still my daughter. Teresa closed her notebook. Rosa, I need to ask you something. What do you want to happen here? I want my money back. Some of that's possible. What else? I want them to understand what they did. I want consequences. Legal consequences. I hesitated. I don't know. That's the decision you need to make. Because if you want serious accountability, we need to move fast. File criminal complaints. Freeze assets. Get court orders before they can hide anything else. And if I don't want that, then we negotiate a settlement. They return whatever they can. Sign agreements acknowledging the debt. Maybe structured payments over time. No jail. No public record. But also no guarantee they'll follow through. Gabriel slammed his hand on the table. No, absolutely not. They don't get to walk away from this. It's not your decision, I said quietly. The hell it isn't. Enrique asked me to protect you. That's what I'm doing. By destroying my daughter. By holding her accountable. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm sitting, both end with me losing her. Gabriel's expression softened slightly. Rosa, you've already lost her. The question is whether you're going to get justice. Justice or revenge. Why can't it be both? Teresa interrupted. This isn't productive. Rosa needs time to think. This is a huge decision with no good options. She doesn't have time, Marca said. He'd been quiet until now. Adrian's running. I can see his patterns. He's liquidating what he can. He'll be out of the country in a week. How do you know? Because that's what people do when the walls close in. He's not stupid. He knows you have everything. He's going to take whatever's left and disappear. And Lucia? I asked. She'll have to choose, him or you. If she chooses him, she's complicit in everything that comes next. The thought of my daughter choosing Adrian over me after everything, it was almost too much to bear. Gabriel's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his expression changed. You need to see this. He showed me a text from someone named Richard. A photo attached. Adrian at an airport. Talking to someone at a ticket counter. Who's Richard? I asked. Former colleague. Works airport security. I asked him to flag me if Adrian showed up. Is that legal? Do you care? I looked at the photo. My son-in-law. Running. When was this taken? 20 minutes ago. International terminal. So that's what space to think meant. He was leaving. Abandoning Lucia. Abandoning the mess he'd created. Taking whatever money he could salvage. Stop him, I said. Gabriel was already dialing. On it. Teresa leaned forward. Rosa, if we stop him at the airport, we need a legal basis. That means filing criminal charges right now. Are you ready to do that? I thought about Lucia. About how this would shatter her. About how our family would never be the same. But I also thought about 12 years. About every sacrifice. Every worry. Every night I'd gone to bed scared about money that should have been mine. About Enrique building protections I'd never known about. About how he'd tried to save me from exactly this. Do it, I said. Teresa grabbed her phone and started making calls. Gabriel was talking rapidly to someone. Marcus was already typing up reports. And I sat there watching my family fracture in real time. My phone rang. Lucia. Mama, did you? She could barely speak. Did you call the police on Adrian? How did you know? He just texted. Said they stopped him at the gate. Said he's being detained. What did you do? What I should have done 12 years ago. I protected myself. They are going to arrest him. Probably. And me. I closed my eyes. I don't know. I didn't take that money. I didn't forge anything. I was stupid and I trusted the wrong person, but I didn't. You knew, Lucia. Maybe not every detail, but you knew enough. And you said nothing. Because I love you. Because I didn't want to hurt you. You hurt me anyway. At least this way we're honest about it. Silence. Then, I'll never forgive you for this. The words should have broken me. Instead, I felt strangely calm. That's fair, I said. I'm not sure I'll forgive you either. I ended the call and looked at the people around me. My brother, my lawyer, my investigator. They'd become my family in ways my actual family hadn't. What happens now? I asked. Gabriel sat down beside me. Now we fight. We get back what we can. We make sure they face consequences. And we rebuild your life. And if Lucia gets caught in that. He took my hand. Then she faces the consequences of her choices. Just like we all do. Through the window, I saw the sun setting. Ending this day. Starting whatever came next. I thought about Enrique. About how he'd tried so hard to protect me. About how, even from the grave, he was still fighting for me. And I decided something. If he could fight for me from beyond death, I could damn well fight for myself while I was still living. Call the prosecutor, I said. I want to make a formal statement. About everything. Teresa nodded. First thing tomorrow. No. Tonight, before I lose my nerve, before I start making excuses for them again. Gabriel squeezed my hand. You're sure? I thought about my daughter's voice, the tears, the pleading, the manipulation wrapped in love. Then I thought about 12 years of struggle, of sacrifice, of lies. I'm sure. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and old paperwork. I sat in a small room with grey walls and fluorescent lights that made everything look washed out. Detective Maria Santos sat across from me with a recorder between us and a notepad already half-filled. Start from the beginning, she said. Her voice was kind but businesslike. When did you first learn about the trust? I told her everything. The birthday party, Gabriel's question, the documents, the forged signatures. All of it spilled out in a rush that left me breathless. Detective Santos took notes without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back and studied me. This is a strong case, she said. But I'll be honest with you, Mrs. Moreno. Family fraud is complicated. Juries sympathize with daughters who made bad choices. Defense attorneys paint pictures of misunderstandings and good intentions. So you're saying nothing will happen? I'm saying we need ironclad evidence, not just documents. We need communications, proof of intent, evidence they knew what they were doing was wrong and did it anyway. Teresa spoke up from beside me. We have that. Emails, text messages, bank records showing deliberate structuring to avoid detection. I'll need to see all of it. Teresa started pulling files from her briefcase when someone knocked on the door. A younger officer stuck his head in. Detective, there's someone here asking to speak with Mrs. Moreno. Says it's urgent. A Mrs. Reyes. My heart stopped. Reyes. That was Lucia's married name. Send her in, Detective Santos said. But it wasn't Lucia who walked through the door. It was Adrian's sister, Carmen. I'd met her maybe 3 times in all the years Adrian and Lucia had been married. She lived across the country, kept to herself. I barely knew her. She looked terrified. Mrs. Moreno, she said quickly. I need to talk to you, before this goes any further. Detective Santos gestured to an empty chair. Have a seat, Mrs. Reyes. Whatever you want to say, you can say in front of me. Carmen clutched a messenger bag against her chest. Her hands were shaking. Adrian called me this afternoon. From the airport. He was panicking. Said everything was falling apart. That you'd found out about the money. Did you know? I asked. Not until today. I swear. But he said something that scared me. He said if he went down, he was taking Lucia with him. That he had proof she was involved in everything. My stomach dropped. What kind of proof? Carmen's eyes filled with tears. Lies. He was going to forge documents showing Lucia authorized everything. Make it look like she was the mastermind. He said if he was going to prison, she could come with him. That bastard, Gabriel muttered from the corner where he'd been standing silently. But that's not why I'm here. Carmen pulled a flash drive from her bag. I have something. Something Adrian doesn't know I kept. She set it on the table like it was explosive. What's on it? Detective Santos asked. Everything. Emails. Financial records. Audio recordings from business calls. I was Adrian's bookkeeper for years. He had me keep backup files in case anything ever happened to his computer. She pushed the drive toward me with shaking fingers. 3 years ago, I found something that didn't look right. Money moving in ways that seemed wrong. I asked him about it. He said it was complicated family business. Told me not to worry about it. But you kept copies, Teresa said. I was raised to cover my own back. My father taught me that when someone tells you not to worry, that's exactly when you should start worrying. Carmen wiped her eyes. I kept backups of everything, just in case he ever tried to throw me under the bus. Detective Santos picked up the drive. And you're willing to provide this as evidence? Yes, because Lucia doesn't deserve what he's planning to do to her. She's naive and she trusted the wrong person, but she's not a criminal. He is. I stared at this woman I barely knew, this unexpected ally. Why are you doing this? I asked. Carmen looked at me with something like shame. Because he's my brother and I love him, but he's also a user and a liar, and I'm tired of watching him destroy people. You don't deserve what he did, and neither does Lucia. Detective Santos plugged the drive into her computer. Her expression changed as she started scrolling through files. This is extensive, she said quietly. Mrs. Reyes, do you understand what you're giving us? This could send your brother to prison. I know. Carmen's voice was barely a whisper. But it'll also clear Lucia. And save Mrs. Moreno from years of litigation trying to prove what we can prove right now. She turned to me. There's something else you should know. About 6 months ago, Adrian asked me to help him set up offshore accounts. Said it was for tax purposes. I refused, but I kept the emails where he asked. Premeditation, Teresa breathed. He was planning his exit strategy months ago. Detective Santos kept clicking through files. I'm seeing communications between Adrian and the construction company. He knew they were failing before he invested. This email, she turned the screen around, specifically warns him the company is headed for bankruptcy. He invested anyway. With my money, I said. With your money, she confirmed. Mrs. Reyes, I need to ask, are you willing to testify to all of this? Carmen nodded. Whatever it takes. 2 hours later, we left the police station with a case Detective Santos called the most documented family fraud I've seen in 15 years. Gabriel drove me home in silence. When we pulled into my driveway, he finally spoke. Carmen just saved Lucia's life. I know. The evidence on that drive proves Adrian acted alone. Forged documents, hid information, manipulated everyone including his own wife. I know, I said again. Are you going to tell Lucia? I thought about my daughter, about the last words she'd said to me. I'll never forgive you for this. Not yet, I said. Let her be angry. Let her blame me. Eventually she'll learn the truth. Maybe by then she'll be ready to hear it. Gabriel walked me to my door. You did the right thing tonight. Did I? Because it doesn't feel right. It feels like I just burned down my family. Your family burned itself down. You're just refusing to pretend it's still standing. He hugged me, a real hug, not the stiff kind from the birthday party, and left. Inside, my house felt different, emptier somehow, or maybe I was just seeing it clearly for the first time in years. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Carmen. I'm sorry for everything. Your husband was a good man. You deserve better than what my brother did. I hope someday Lucia understands how hard you fought for her today. I read it 3 times, then saved the number. Outside my window, the moon was rising, bright and cold and honest. I'd spent so many years living in shadows, in half-truths and careful ignorance. In the comfortable lies people tell when the truth costs too much. Not anymore. 3 weeks later, I sat in a conference room that smelled like leather and ambition. On one side of the table, me, Gabriel, Teresa, and Marcus. On the other side, Adrian's attorney, a sharp-faced man named Phillips who looked like he billed by the minute. Lucia wasn't there. She'd refused to come. Sent a text saying she couldn't face me right now. Fine. This wasn't about her anyway. Adrian wasn't there either. He was being held without bail. Flight risk, the judge had ruled, especially after they'd found evidence of his planned escape. Phillips opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. My client is prepared to offer a settlement. Full restitution of documented funds. Liquidation of assets. Structured payments over 10 years. 10 years. Gabriel laughed. Rosa will be 70. Try again. 5 years is aggressive but possible if we liquidate the house and... 3 years. Teresa cut in. And we want it front-loaded. 60% in the first year. He can figure out how. Phillips made notes. That will require significant loans against. I don't care how he does it. That's the offer. Take it or we go to trial. And I promise you, with the evidence we have, your client will spend the next decade in prison. Phillips shifted uncomfortably. There are extenuating circumstances, mental health considerations, gambling addiction treatment. Save it for the judge, Gabriel said coldly. We're not here to negotiate his excuses. We're here to get Rosa's money back. I'd been quiet until now, letting them handle the tactical warfare. But something Phillips said bothered me. What about Lucia? I asked. Phillips looked surprised I'd spoken. What about her? Is she being charged with anything? A pause. The prosecutor is still reviewing evidence regarding her involvement. She wasn't involved, I said firmly. She was manipulated. There's a difference. Teresa touched my arm. Rosa, we talked about this. You don't have to protect her. I'm not protecting her. I'm telling the truth. Your client, I looked at Phillips, lied to my daughter, forged documents in my name, hid evidence of his crimes. She was a victim too. Phillips leaned forward slightly. If you're willing to make a statement to that effect, it could help both parties reach a resolution. What kind of resolution? Adrian pleads to fraud and theft charges, agrees to full restitution, serves reduced time with cooperation. Lucia avoids charges entirely. Gabriel shook his head. No, he needs to serve real time, not some white-collar resort sentence. He will, but with credit for cooperation and a structured repayment plan, we're looking at 3 to 5 years instead of 15 to 20. I thought about that. 3 to 5 years. It seemed too late for what he'd done. But 15 to 20? That meant Adrian would be an old man when he got out. And what would that solve? What's the alternative? I asked. Trial. Could take 2 years to get to court. Expensive. Emotionally draining. No guarantee of outcome. Juries are unpredictable with family cases. Teresa jumped in. But we'd win. The evidence is overwhelming. Probably, Phillips conceded. But at what cost? Mrs. Moreno would have to testify in detail about her relationship with her daughter, about her late husband's estate. It would be public, painful, and even with a conviction, collecting restitution from a prisoner is nearly impossible. He had a point. A trial would destroy what little remained of my privacy. Every detail of my life, Enrique's death, my struggles, my daughter's betrayal, all of it would become public record. How much can you get me back? I asked. Phillips consulted his notes. The house has equity of approximately $90,000 after the mortgage. The rental property might fetch $15,000 if we're lucky. Adrian has a 401k worth $35,000. Various personal assets, vehicles, equipment, maybe $20,000 total. That's $160,000, Gabriel said. She's owed $500,000. The rest will come from structured payments. Adrian will need to work, earn money, pay it back over time. From prison. He can work in prison, and when he's released, the payments continue. We'll have it court-ordered. If he defaults, he goes back to prison. I did the math in my head. Even if he paid everything on schedule, I'd only see about half of what I'd lost. Maybe less after legal fees. But it was better than nothing. Better than years of trial. Better than watching my family implode on public television. I want 2 conditions, I said. Everyone looked at me. First, Adrian signs a statement admitting everything. Fraud, forgery, manipulation, all of it, in writing, so that Lucia knows the truth from his own words. Phillips made a note. Agreed. What else? Second, he stays away from my daughter. No contact, no letters, no phone calls. He doesn't get to manipulate her anymore. That's not legally. Make it part of the plea agreement. or there's no deal. Phillips looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll discuss it with my client. The meeting ended 20 minutes later with a framework agreement. Adrian would plead guilty, make restitution, serve time, and leave Lucia alone. It wasn't justice. Not really. But it was closure. As we walked out, Gabriel pulled me aside. Are you sure about this? We could destroy him in court. I know. But I'm 60 years old. I don't want to spend the next 2 years of my life in a courtroom. I want to move on. And Lucia? Lucia needs to figure out her own life. Without Adrian. Without me protecting her. She needs to face what happened and decide who she wants to be. You're being too generous. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being angry. Teresa joined us. The prosecutor approved the framework. She's willing to recommend the reduced sentence if Adrian cooperates fully and the restitution plan is solid. When will we know for sure? I asked. His arraignment is next week. He'll enter his plea then, if he takes the deal. And if he doesn't, then we go to war. The arraignment was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Tuesday that felt like the longest day of my life. I sat in the courtroom with Gabriel on one side and Teresa on the other. The room smelled like old wood and nervous sweat. People filled the benches, other cases waiting their turn, lawyers conferring in whispers, families hoping for mercy. When they brought Adrian in, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. His orange jumpsuit hung loose on his frame. His hair was uncombed. His eyes darted around the room until they landed on me. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I tried to find anger, tried to summon the rage I'd felt over the past weeks. But all I saw was a broken man who'd gambled everything and lost. The judge entered. We all stood. The bailiff called the case. The People versus Adrian Miguel Reyes. Adrian's attorney approached the bench with our settlement agreement. The prosecutor added her recommendation. The judge read through everything with an expression that gave nothing away. Mr. Reyes, she said finally, you're charged with fraud, forgery, and theft from a family member. These are serious crimes that carry substantial prison time. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. His voice was barely audible. Your attorney has negotiated a plea agreement. You'll plead guilty to all charges, agree to full restitution, serve a reduced sentence. Do you understand the terms? Yes, Your Honor. And do you accept these terms? Adrian hesitated. His attorney whispered something urgent. The courtroom held its breath. Yes, Adrian said finally. I accept. Very well. Before I approve this agreement, I want to hear from you directly. Why did you do this? Adrian stood there, hands cuffed in front of him, and for a moment I thought he might actually tell the truth. I was trying to build something, he said slowly. For my family, for my wife. I saw an opportunity to grow the trust fund, to turn $500,000 into something bigger. I thought, his voice cracked, I thought if I could just make it work, everyone would be better off. The judge's expression hardened. So you stole from your wife's widowed mother for her own good. It wasn't stealing. It was investing. Family money for family benefit. Without her knowledge or consent. I knew she'd say no. She's risk-averse. She would have just let the money sit there doing nothing. I felt Gabriel tense beside me. Teresa put a restraining hand on his arm. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Reyes, let me be clear. You didn't invest family money. You stole from a vulnerable widow. You forged documents. You manipulated your wife. And when it all fell apart, you tried to flee the country. That's not investing. That's predation. Adrian's face flushed. I never meant to hurt anyone. But you did. Mrs. Moreno, would you like to address the court? Everyone turned to look at me. Teresa nodded encouragement. I stood on shaking legs. Your Honor, I don't have much to say. Just one thing. I looked directly at Adrian. You told my daughter you did this for the family. You told yourself you were protecting us, building our future, being a good husband and son-in-law. He wouldn't meet my eyes, but what you really did was steal my peace and call it love. You took my security and called it an investment. You watched me struggle and called it necessary patience. My voice got stronger. For 12 years I lived small and scared because I thought I had to. I skipped meals. I postponed medical care. I said no to my friends and yes to worry because you let me believe I had nothing. Mrs. Moreno, You stole more than money. You stole the life my husband died trying to give me. You stole years I can't get back. And you did it while calling yourself family. The courtroom was silent. So no, Adrian, you didn't do this for the family. You did this for yourself. And the worst part, you still believe your own lie. I sat down. My hands were shaking. Gabriel squeezed my shoulder. The judge looked at Adrian. Do you have anything to say to Mrs. Moreno? He stood there for a long moment. I waited for an apology, for remorse, for some acknowledgement of what he'd done. Instead, he said, I'm sorry you can't see what I was trying to do. The judge's jaw tightened. That's what you have to say? That she doesn't understand. I made mistakes, bad investments, poor judgment, but my intentions were good. Your intentions are irrelevant. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, Mr. Reyes, and you paved a highway. She approved the plea agreement with clear reluctance, sentenced him to 5 years with the possibility of early release for cooperation, ordered monthly restitution payments starting immediately. Adrian was led away without looking back. And just like that, it was over. We walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine that felt wrong somehow. Like the world should have been grey and cold to match what had just happened. You did well in there, Teresa said. That statement was powerful. It was true. The best ones usually are. Gabriel's phone rang. He checked it and his expression changed. It's Lucia. Don't answer, I said. Rosa. Not yet. Let her process what happened. Let her read the confession Adrian signed. Let her sit with the truth for a while. And then we'll see if she's ready to talk. Really talk. Not blame. Not make excuses. Just talk. We drove home in silence. When Gabriel dropped me off, he asked, What are you going to do now? I looked at my house, at the home I'd lived in for 40 years, the place where Enrique and I had built our life, where we'd raised Lucia, where every room held memories of better times. I'm going to sell it, I said. What? This house. I'm selling it, moving somewhere new, starting over. Rosa, you don't have to. Yes, I do. I can't live here anymore. Everywhere I look, I see ghosts. I need a fresh start. Gabriel nodded slowly. Where will you go? I thought about it, about what I wanted, what I needed. The coast. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can hear the ocean and remember that the world is bigger than this pain. That sounds perfect. He hugged me goodbye, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than anger or grief. I felt possibility. The for sale sign went up on a Thursday morning 3 weeks later. I stood on the sidewalk looking at it. My house. My home. 40 years of memories distilled into a phone number and a price. The realtor said it would sell quickly. Good neighborhood. Solid bones. Priced right. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted it done. While the house was being shown, I stayed with Gabriel in his guest room. We fell into an easy rhythm. Coffee in the mornings. Quiet dinners. Long talks about everything and nothing. One evening, he asked about Lucia. Have you talked to her? No. She sent texts. Dozens of them. I haven't responded. What do they say? At first they were angry. Blamed me for everything. Said I destroyed her marriage. Her life. Then they got desperate. Apologizing. Begging for another chance. Now they're just sad. Are you going to answer? I took a long sip of wine. Eventually, when I'm ready, when she's ready. How will you know when that is? When she stops making excuses and starts taking responsibility. When she stops saying, but after every apology. The house sold in 11 days. A young couple with 2 kids. They loved the yard, the porch, the way the light came through the kitchen windows. I was happy for them. I hoped they'd make better memories there than the ones I was leaving behind. With the money from the sale and the first payment from Adrian's restitution fund, I had enough. Not what I'd lost, not what I deserved, but enough. I found a villa 40 miles from the coast. Small, 1 bedroom, a porch that faced the ocean. I could afford it outright with money left over for a cushion. The first morning in my new home, I woke to the sound of seagulls. I made coffee and sat on my porch watching the sun rise over the water. The air smelled like salt and possibility. My phone buzzed. A text from Teresa, settlement payment confirmed. First installment deposited. You did it. I stared at the message. After everything, the betrayal, the investigation, the courtroom confrontation, it came down to a bank transfer and a text message. I'd won. Sort of. As much as anyone wins in these situations. Another text came in. This one from a number that wasn't saved. Mama, it's me. I know you're not ready to talk. I understand. But I need you to know something. I read Adrian's confession. All of it. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know how bad it was. I'm so sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. I read it 3 times, looking for the but, for the excuse, for the rationalization. It wasn't there. I typed back, I know you didn't know everything. That's why I fought to keep you out of it. You don't owe me forgiveness, but you owe yourself honesty. Figure out who you are without him. Then maybe we can talk. I hit send before I could overthink it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, okay. I will. I love you. I set the phone down and looked at the ocean. Love was complicated. It could be weapon and shield, poison and medicine, the thing that destroyed you and the thing that saved you. I'd learned that the hard way. A woman walked past on the beach below. She was about my age. She waved. I waved back. Maybe I'd make friends here. Maybe I'd join one of those groups for retirees. Maybe I'd finally take that painting class I'd always talked about. Or maybe I'd just sit on this porch and watch the waves and remember that I'd survived. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Gabriel. How's the view? I smiled and typed back. Perfect. Come visit soon. Bring wine. Deal. Proud of you, little sister. I set the phone aside and closed my eyes. Let the sun warm my face. Let the sound of the ocean drown out the noise in my head. For 12 years I'd lived in someone else's story. Their lies, their manipulations, their version of what my life should be. Not anymore. This was my story now. My truth. My peace. And peace, I'd finally learned, wasn't something anyone could give you or take away. It was something you built. One honest moment at a time. One boundary at a time. One choice to value yourself over comfort at a time. I opened my eyes and looked at the ocean stretching to the horizon. Somewhere out there, Lucia was figuring out her own path. Adrian was facing consequences. Gabriel was probably already planning his visit. And me? I was exactly where I needed to be. Free. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever struggled with family betrayal, or if you believe in the power of truth over comfort, please subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and personal justice? What would you have done in Rosa's situation? Your stories and perspectives matter. Let's build a community where we can share these difficult truths together. Hit that subscribe button and join the conversation. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to live in someone else's lie.